was down the stairs and he started screaming frantically, "Hurry, go get Prince, get security." So at that point I drop everything and run into the den, which is not too far from the kitchen, and proceed to go get Prince. And Dr. Murray runs back upstairs. So at this point, me and the children are downstairs, and you can kind of feel that there was something very not right going on.
That's the importance of having a professional firefighter as a dispatcher. He asked about where was the CPR being done, and they said it was on the bed. Well, it was our firefighter paramedic dispatcher that said, remove the patient from the bed onto the floor. So you can see before paramedics even arrived on scene, life-saving techniques were being implemented.
We're already on our way. Did anybody see him?
Yes, we have a personal doctor here with him, sir.
Oh, you have a doctor there?
Yes, but he's not responding to anything. No, he's not responding to CPR or anything.
They go through a series of protocol questions so that the dispatcher can get as much information as possible to relay to the rescue ambulances.
Did anybody witness what happened?
No, just the doctor, sir. The doctor's been the only one here.
Okay, so the doctor see what happened?
Doctor, did you see what happened, sir? And, sir, you just, if you can please.
We're on our way. I'm just passing these questions on to my paramedics while they're on the way there, sir.
Thank you, sir. He's pumping his chest, but he's not responding to anything, sir. Please.
At the scene, you had 4 paramedics, which would have been a normal assignment for someone suffering the same thing as Mr. Jackson was suffering. This was nothing out of the ordinary because he was a celebrity.
All of a sudden, we see paramedics, running up the stairs. We start panicking. Harris starts crying, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." I start crying, the staff starts crying, and then we just kind of came together and we just started praying.
Obviously, their emotions heighten when they know the patient or they know the celebrity of the patient, and that makes it a little bit more intense. And they know that they just refer back to their training. The reason for that delay is that firefighters are in communication with the emergency hospitals, and they're doing everything possible to stabilize the patient using the tools and equipment that we have.
The first indication we had that something was going on is the photographer that was on site called me around 12:30 and said an ambulance just went into the house. I got there about 10 minutes later, so about 12:40, and I called in 3 other photographers.
It was necessary for us to stay there for that amount of time to stabilize him. The hospital said, there's not more we can do in the field. Let's package Mr. Jackson and get him to the short drive to UCLA. The driver of the ambulance told me personally that as they were pulling out the street, paparazzi were running and putting their cameras up against the windows and snapping pictures.
Taking a flash picture through a window that has tint is difficult to do. You have to get the lens right up against the window and the flash right up against the window, so it can be a bit of a trick.
It was just a normal tour, nothing different, until we approached the front entrance of the rental property of Michael Jackson. We saw a fire engine parked, guarding the front entrance, the gate, and all of a sudden an EMT or firefighter came out and told us to stop, and it was the ambulance. It was leaving the front gates, and we had no idea who was in it, I'll be honest, but we were like, oh my gosh. And so at that moment we just stopped, we watched. The only thing that was being yelled, and I can't be certain if it was the security guard, they was like, hey man, he's not breathing, move out of the way. He's not breathing. We watched paparazzi jump all over the vehicle. Those guys were all over that ambulance. It was crazy. And then all of a sudden the ambulance took off, and as soon as they did, there was 3 or 4 paparazzi cars that just took off after the ambulance.
They're in the back of the ambulance. They are administering the medical care. They're monitoring his breathing. They don't break communication with the hospital. They are, quickly moving into the emergency room, and they are giving a brief to the doctors on what they saw, what they felt, what they experienced.
They brought him in on a stretcher and they put him into the emergency room. I was sitting in a chair right outside the actual room, and there was tons of activity, and they were trying to resuscitate him and save him.
I was there for a few minutes and Randy Jackson walked in, and I went up to him and I just put my arms around him and we started to sob together. And then Jermaine Jackson came through the door. He put his arms around me and we stood again sobbing in the middle of the emergency room. I saw the family in their room. They were holding hands. They weren't speaking. They were very upset. There were hugs, there were tears. He was absolutely glassy-eyed. He had no expression on his face. He was nervous and upset. In the middle of trying to revive Michael, trying to save Michael, his music was playing from the fans, and it was so loud and it filtered into the emergency room. Just a very unreal circumstance.
A team of doctors, including emergency physicians and cardiologists, attempted to resuscitate him for a period of more than 1 hour. And they were unsuccessful. May Allah be with you, Michael, always. Love you.